Hey everybody, I am Maximilian, and today we are working on an M67 Frag Grenade in Autodesk Maya and Substance Painter. So I needed a grenade for I'm working on this video game project, and I needed a frag grenade because it's like a military game with, Marines and everything, as you could probably expect. And I went online. I was like trying to find one on like fab asset stores and things like that because I figured this can't be a hard thing to find, right? But I just couldn't find one that felt authentic and looked real and looked like I needed it to look. And the problem is that I'm really picky when it comes to this sort of stuff because I'm a Marine veteran myself, and I've held these things and I've thrown these things, and I know what they look like, I know what they feel like. And so when I go and look at other people's 3D models and it doesn't look perfect to me, I'm just like, that's not going to work for me, because it's just, I place a big impetus on authenticity when it comes to pretty much everything I do. So I needed to build one myself, and you'll see me flipping back to these images that I have on Freeform that I just placed a bunch of reference images down so that I could quickly tab back over to take a look at them. And so the first thing we did was build the body of the grenade, which has this kind of like spherical apple shape with the stem poking out of it. And that's all one piece, just like it is in real life. And generally in 3D modeling, you want to model things as they are in real life. So if something is multiple pieces in real life, you should model them as multiple pieces. If it's a single piece, then you model it as a single piece. Now, an interesting exception to that is something like this fuse that we're working on right here. And this is the fuse that sticks out of the top of the grenade where the pin is going to get plugged into. But this is a machined object, right? And so it has a really specific shape. It looks like things have been like welded together, and this is the kind of thing that only a machine could make. So that is kind of the perfect opportunity to use booleans, which is what I've done here with this fuse shape. And so that is when you take a bunch of different meshes and you stick them together and you just fuse them all together as if, this is some machined item out of a factory. And here I'm working on the spoon. And the spoon is, I actually extracted the faces off of the fuse just to like match the shape exactly. And building this out right here. I did actually, so I started off with this as like a plane, like a flat zero thickness plane, and then decided to give it some thickness just so that it looks a little bit more realistic. Now, of course, this is a low poly grenade because this is for a video game, so I didn't want this to be too heavy, but it did need to be realistic. And because this is a grenade in the video game that you can throw, it needed to be modeled in a way that everything was going to work functionally. So the spoon is separate from the fuse, and the spoon can fly off of the grenade after the grenade is thrown, which it does in the game. And yeah. So here I'm just, building out this spoon and trying to keep it as low poly as I can, meaning as few polygons as I can, and still get away with the shape, because it is a video game and performance is important. And so here with the ring, this was kind of a perfect opportunity to use the helix primitive function in Maya. Where you can build like a spiral coil kind of thing, and you can see that worked pretty perfectly for this grenade ring, which is like a little steel ring that is the pin on the grenade. And here I'm just building this out with some simple shapes. This is such a small object that it doesn't need to be perfect for the finished model doesn't really need to be perfect. But it needs to work. And so here I used a ring, and then I just made a cut on that ring, and then modified it to stretch out like this to make the actual like pin shape. And this does go all the way through, just in case, you know, in the game I decided to have the ring be an actual you know, thing that would like fall on the ground or something. That's actually not, but you know, it gives it a cool authenticity to it. Now you'll notice I didn't actually put a hole in the spoon or in the fuse, but that's because I had every intention of just doing that in texturing, which you'll see when we get over to Substance Painter. So at this stage, I've basically finished the low poly model, and here now I'm making, you'll see that I duplicated the grenade, every piece of the grenade, and now I am smoothing it and making a high poly model because I intend on projecting the high smooth details onto the low poly model when we get into texturing. So at this stage, when you're working on a high poly thing for projection, the topology absolutely does not matter at all. It just needs to match and fit over the low poly model, because the normals from the high poly thing are just going to get projected onto the texture map. So you can do whatever you want here on the high poly one, as long as you're keeping the shape and you're smoothing it out and it looks really solid. You can add polys, you can do whatever you want here. So you'll see me doing a combination of creasing in Maya and adding some new edges here and there. I think a lot of people don't utilize the crease function in Maya. You know, creasing is really common in ZBrush, but I think a lot of people I talk to never ever touch creasing in Maya, but it's a really handy tool for this kind of thing, especially when you're working in low poly video game kind of assets, because it just lets you take an edge and define it as being a hard edge instead of being a soft edge, which is, you know, exactly what it does in ZBrush. And believe it or not, if you export as an FBX, the creases will actually make their way into ZBrush too. And when you import it into ZBrush, it'll have those creases built into it. I think a lot of people don't actually know that, but a very handy thing to do. So you'll see here, I've pretty much finished the high poly thing here. Now I'm just working on the pin. So this is you'll see the grenade looks really nice and smooth, and this is the high poly version that is not going to actually be the model in the game, but we're going to use it to project. And here I think I'm just fixing a little bit of topology on this fuse because it's a really complicated shape. That ended up being the hardest part of this whole thing, was the fuse. So now we're getting into UV mapping, and UV mapping this spherical body of the grenade was a challenge. You know, if you look at a globe, you can kind of see how difficult it can be to you know, properly project a round surface onto a flat texture, which is what UV mapping is. So I had to come up with some kind of creative solutions. I tried to use the sphere, the kind of built-in Maya sphere UV projection tool, but it wasn't really working for me. So I ended up going with, you only saw it for a split second because I forgot to record, but I basically cut a strip out of the middle because the middle was like where I wanted all the detail in the UV map. And then I sort of like had like little islands on the top and bottom that ended up working out really well. Here I'm UV mapping the fuse. Now UV mapping is kind of an art form in itself, and if you're not familiar with it, this is where you're taking the three-dimensional object and you're kind of skinning it like an animal pelt or something, trying to get everything as flat on that UV map as you possibly can so that you can project a texture onto it. And that's how texturing works in 3D modeling. And so I actually enjoy UV mapping. I used to hate it, but there's something kind of peaceful about going through and making cuts and, you know, projecting each little piece into its own little island and, you know, arranging it on a map. And I think at first, because these shapes were a little bit complicated, I tried to just do auto UV mapping for everything, but I really didn't like the way the maps were coming out, so I ended up having to go back and redo everything by hand, which gave me much better results. So at this point we are done with the UV map and we're happy with it. So we're going to export the high poly and the low poly, and you load up the low poly version in the Substance Painter, and then you project the normals of the high poly version onto the texture map of the low poly grenade. And that's kind of a mouthful. If you're familiar with 3D modeling, you know what I'm talking about. But that's how, you know, you get these like smooth, nice looking things onto a fairly low poly model here. And here, working on the body of the grenade, this is you know, trying to capture that like rough texture that it has. It's coated in like some kind of paint. I think it's really just designed so that it's like easy to grip, because, you know, obviously Marines, soldiers, whoever got to throw these things, you don't want it slipping out of your hand like a greasy pig or something. So they got this like really rough texture in the paint. And here on the fuse, I'm trying to capture this kind of like machined metal, steel quality to it. So you can see that I have the entire thing on one UV map, but we have a lot of different textures and a lot of different metallic qualities and things going on in different pieces. And you do this with masking. So you can see in the layer stack here that I'm basically masking out the different UV islands within the UV map and only applying materials to things within that mask. So I can mask out the body and do a bunch of work on the body, and then I can mask out the fuse and do a bunch of work on the fuse, and then I can mask out the spoon and give that its own thing. And it's a really great way. Substance Painter makes all this so easy. So I got the text on there now, and with the way I arranged the UV map to be this kind of flat strip in the middle, ended up looking really great. Doing a render test here. So here I think I wanted to really capture that roughness on the body, and I noticed that there's like this seam in the middle of the body that's kind of just this like little raised bit of paint. I think because they like dip the grenade into this paint and then they dip it on the other side, and so you end up with this bit in the middle that's just like a little bit of a line. And so I wanted to get that on there to make it feel really authentic. So now I'm going in here and just adding a little bit more detail, a little bit of little touches to the body of the grenade to really make it feel like, you know, like a real frag grenade. Adding these little like scuff paint things that are definitely there on the real thing, just like little scuffs. These things go like, because of the rough texture on them, they like pick up everything, every little bit and scratch. And you can see the text. You might be able to tell in the text I added a little bit of like roughness to the text so that it would look like it was stamped on or painted on or something. And here you can see I'm kind of adding these like little paint stroke marks onto the grenade, because the real grenade has this. It's like it's been brushed with the paint. So yeah, at this point, this is pretty much done. I'm just adding little finishing touches here and there to make it look just a little bit more authentic. So here, on the top of the grenade, there is actually like a little warning thing. It's like pull pin or whatever. And this is one of those things that like nobody's ever going to see in the game, because I don't know if you'll ever really be able to like look this closely at it, but I know it's there. And so I added this little joke right here on the top. Marines, pull pin, go boom. So here I'm doing that little hole that I talked about, which is you know, basically just stamping a hole, and you just set it to remove height and have 0 reflection, and all of a sudden, boom, it looks like a real hole. And you don't actually have to model it. You save yourself quite a few polys not needing to actually model the hole. And that's basically it, that little final bit right there. And then there you go. You have a finished M67 Frag Grenade. And thanks for watching.